So let's come over here and talk about the UCI in general. On the Layers tab, there is a list of pages and layers that those pages have. We have one page and one layer out of the box. Over here under Toolbox, we have a bunch of controls that we can choose from, and we will get around to doing that in a few moments. And then and there is one last tab here called Variables, and we'll get to it in a video or two. But let's come back to just layers. Remember that we want to have multiple layers to our project, not multiple pages. Well, let's just go delete page. No, you got to have at least one page. Okay, so every Q-SYS UCI has at least one page. Ours is called page 1. Nate invariably is going to change his to say something else.
My page is called Nate's.
Of course it is. I'm going to leave mine as page space 1. That's not a very descriptive name, Jeff. That's also because I'm never going to touch it. I never need to change it. It's going to be okay. Now, underneath it, we can see that I have layer 1, one particular layer. So let's think about this. Our scope of work said that we needed at least 3 layers. We needed a layer for the rooms, for the displays, and for the cameras. But we need 4 layers, Nate. We need 4 layers because we also need a base layer for where we put all of our navigation buttons and those audio buttons. Because you know what would happen, Nate, if you actually put your nav buttons on one of the rooms?
It's called bye-bye nav buttons.
Yeah.
Whoosh.
Yeah.
I want to go here. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and you get stuck on that one page, just like just like Hotel California.
Hotel California? As in you can check out, but you can never leave?
Yeah, Hotel California-ing.
The good news is that you're not dating yourself from your previous claim that you're not old by referencing an Eagles song from, I think, 1712. I'm being fact-checked on that, and I'm being told I'm correct.
Thanks, Nate. All right, so 4 layers. Let's get these 4 layers in. Down here at the bottom is a little plus button. We're going to click Add Layer, Add Layer, Add Layer. Now, could you have hit Alt-L? Yes. Okay, Alt-Layer. So there we are. We have 4 layers. So we should name these layers, Nate, because layer 1, 2, 3, and 4, I don't like those. They're not very descriptive. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to name them like this. We're going to rename layer 1 as A1 underscore room. Layer 3 is going to be B1 underscore displays. And then C1 underscore cameras. And then lastly, Z1 underscore.
Now, why, Jeff, would you
base.
bother adding that prefix to each of your layers?
Yeah, 1 is because I have OCD. 2 is because I like to keep my layers organized, and part of the way that I keep them organized is I either like to create them in series, like maybe I do 100, 200, 300 or whatever, but here I'm making use of alphanumerics to do it. But part of the reason for doing it alphanumerically is because at some point you might interact with a component that lists things out, and it's going to list it out alphanumerically. So I am building in organization in ways that will just manifest itself throughout the design file.
And most importantly, you're doing it ahead of time, right? You're thinking about that when you start it rather than when you discover that it's a mistake later on. If you think about these kinds of things when you're constructing them the first time, then you know they're labeled nicely and organizable in the way you want them to from the get-go. So always, even if it's a small UCI, just get used to that kind of nomenclature you talked about.
Yep. It's how I like to live. Let's add some headers here. And we could add headers from a couple different places. We could actually come over here to Graphic Tools and grab a header. But actually, if you happen to have seen the intermediate class, that's what Nate did. So I'm going to do something different. I'm going to come to the toolbox. And over here in the toolbox, oh, look, there it is again. There's a header. So I'm going to grab a header and I'm going to deploy it. And how did I do that? I literally just dragged and dropped. There it is. And I am going to shove mine right up here in the corner, and I'm going to drag it all the way across. So that's a full 1280 pixels across. I like mine to be 50 pixels tall. This is just me being me. And I personally can't read it, okay, at the moment. That's 12 point. I'm going to set mine to be 24 because now I can read that really good. But don't go crazy, okay? Don't go changing all the things about it, because in another video or two, we're going to be applying a style sheet. And that's going to overwrite all of those things anyway, which is exactly what you want it to do. So don't go crazy. You don't need to. Just enough to make it functional for now. So there we are. We have deployed one particular header, which of course says header, and it is currently, on mine at least, it's on the Z1 base layer. And I'm going to change mine to say room controls. And as you can see here, it says, ooh, there's now a header called room controls, currently on the base layer. That's not the layer we want it on, is it, Nate? That doesn't make any sense.
Mine's on the Nate's layer because I gave all of my layers a good name. Also, my header says Nate.
Let's just drag and drop this up on the rooms layer where it's supposed to go. Now notice how the little caret now is on the rooms layer and says, oh, yeah, there you go, rooms control. One of the other things to notice here is that these little green and blue indicators, these are subtle little clues that you actually need to start paying attention to, because those little indicators tell you which page is active, which is pretty boring because we only have one, but which layer is active. That's actually going to be really important. The other thing that you can notice here is that we have these show hide things, okay? So we can show and hide the A1 room layer by clicking that little eyeball. So from here, we need to actually get some headers on the rest of these pages. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to use Control-C to copy, shocker, and then I'm going to do Control-V, and ooh, look at that. I now have my little copy here is floating around with me. If I happen to hit Shift and click, that actually Shift clicks and pastes in place, which is really nice because you want to make sure these things line up pixel perfect. Because if they're off by a pixel and you see that you go from one layer to the other and that dadgum little header line moves by a pixel, you're going to lose your mind, okay? So paste in place, it's a really good trick. We need to do it one more time. So I'm going to copy, paste, shift, paste in place. And now look at that. I've got 3 instances of that header. I'm just going to move these into their respective layers. And then I'm going to turn off these other layers. And I'm going to select just this particular one and change it to, say, displays controls. And I'm going to hide that layer, and I'm going to turn on the cameras layer, and I'm going to click that header right there, and we're going to change this to, say, cameras controls. And we're going to click that. And then we're going to turn on all of the layers and say to ourselves, good googly moogly, that looks like a disaster. It's a hot mess.
You know, it's actually not a hot mess on my UCI. You want to know why?
Because it all says Nate.
Because every layer is named Nate, so it doesn't matter if they're all visible at the same time.
Don't be like Nate.
That's just good advice generally in life. Don't be like Nate.
This is a wonderful place for us to take a little break, and we'll see you again in the next episode. Thanks. See you.